Join me today as we look at a disassembled sterling faceter handpiece, clean it, service it, reassemble it, and then set it up so it's true. Okay, this is a video about the maintenance of the sterling faceter handpiece. Stripping everything down is easy. You just undo everything and take it apart. So I've done that. What you then do, or what I do, is wash everything down with WD-40, wipe it with a clean rag, clean all the grooves in the chuck piece, grease down through there, grease down through here and through there, grease down through there, undo this. There's a little nut, there's a little Allen key there, Allen key, yes, and this will then slide up and down, and you can squirt WD-40 in there and then grease it and do this up again until everything moves beautifully smoothly. So basically, undo everything, wash it down with WD, clean it, grease it, clean it again, because there'll be now a layer of grease on everything. And here's the tricky part, remembering how it all goes back together again. So here we go. Put the chuck through there. It has a keyway and a little key, so it will only go one way. Okay. Insert through here. It's well engineered, so don't force it, just slide it through, it'll get there. There. Make sure everything's moving smoothly, which it is. Wipe off any excess grease. Splendid. Nice and clean. Make sure the numbers are facing forwards, as you won't be able to see where you're faceting. And there's a keyway. Find the keyway. There it is. Okay, good. That's in place. Now remember, I've washed everything down with WD, cleaned it thoroughly, greased it, and now we're assembling. It'll find its natural spot, and once it has, pinch tight, no need to force anything, that's not going anywhere. Splendid. This is the little ring mechanism which goes here, which brings this, where is it? Controls this latch. In other words, if you have this ring mechanism over there, this is now free moving. As soon as you move it there, it latches on and holds the index wheel in place. So it's a very important part. There is a spring which locates just here. Just rests there. Nothing too complicated. Not that it's going to stay there, and this slides onto that mechanism there. So you can see how that works, hopefully. We now need to put a pin through it, so it's not going to go anywhere. Forgive my fingers in the way, but there's no other way of doing this. Don't force anything. If it's tight for a reason. Back off. Start again. Okay, everything functioning right? Yep. Everything functioning right? Yep. Good. Excellent. And now for something a bit tricky. Put it on a flat surface. Hopefully you can see what you need to see. This has got to go in through there and then locates onto this lever here. That's your cheater, your fine adjustment. The first thing we got to do is attach the arm through. This never cooperates very nicely. It did this time, look at that. Ignore that. We'll catch it now. Why don't I put that on? Insert the lock screw at the back. Put this spring, after you've greased and cleaned everything, with its base plate there. This could be a bit tricky because what I also do is stretch this spring out, because with lots of use the spring tends to tighten. So stretch it out and you'll get a lot more adjustment. Again, I'm sorry if you can't see absolutely everything. Now it's going to get a bit tight here and then it'll ease off, and as you can see you can then set that to however you want. Not many bits to go. Let's lock the mechanism in place with this nylon washer. Make sure the grooves are facing inwards. Perfect. Rusty old Allen key. Again, nothing but professional here. Tight enough so it stays in place, but not so tight that it won't move. There we go. Everything is now smooth and silky. locks in accurately, clean and ready for use. So that's part one. I hope you find that useful. It is important to keep this clean. This is your precision mechanism. This is what enables you to get the facets just in the right place. Any dirt or grit on there is going to hinder you getting the perfect stone. So it's not complicated. Everything only seems to go in one way, and it's just a case of practicing with the cleaning of it. I tend to do it fairly frequently, after about every 4 or 5 stone. I wipe it down obviously after, well, every time I use it, but to thoroughly clean everything, good idea. Okay, so the next part of the video will be about balancing the handpiece. The handpiece has an X and a Y axis, so it goes up and down, and when you set this at 0, to do a table, the top part of the gem, it's very important that this is horizontal. If it's slightly down, your table will have a bit of an angle on it. If so, that's one axis, up and down, so we'll adjust that, and the other way is obviously left to right. Now I've used this now for about a year. It probably needs balancing again, so I'll show you how to do that. That'll be part 2, but not tonight. Coronation Street's about to finish and I'd better go sit with the dear lady wife. Good night everybody. Okay, welcome back. Let's discuss setting up the handpiece. Now the first thing I tend to do is this adjustment just here, which is the cheater. I've cleaned it, I've put it all back together. I'm going to wind it all the way back in, or as far as it can go. So that's compressed the spring, and what I need to do now is get some adjustment out of it. So wind it out, 0, back to 0, back to 0, back to 0. So I've got 4 usable turns there. So let's turn it in 2. Turning it in, 0, 0. Now I'm going to treat that as my centre point on the fine adjustment is concerned. So that's the first thing already set up. Secondly, I'm going to put this at 90 degrees because I'm now going to set up the whole handpiece. And I'll tell you what, let's just mess it up if we can, if I've got the strength to undo these. Hang on. Okay, so these feet are now loose. I have really messed up the initial setup that I had, which is absolutely fine. Now we've got some fixed planes here. This is fixed in that it's at a certain angle, fairly rigid. It goes up and down, but that's a flat plane. The turntable, the plinth, sorry about the washing machine in the background, is also a flat plane. Fixed plane, fixed plane, fixed plane, fixed plane. So what I tend to do for an initial setup is, I know that's a beautifully flat piece of aluminium, and I have glued a dot to it. Now then, as you can see, I'm lowering this down. and I will now attach it. Now if all was equal, this would now fit perfectly flat onto that table. Now I can see that's miles out. See a lovely gap over there. I'm not sure you can see much of that, but I'll try and zoom in. So what I need to do now is, as an initial setup, is make some fine adjustments. I'm going to carry on recording this when the washing machine has stopped spinning, and I'm just going to play with it. I can now see that's gone a lot flatter there. See the movement there. Okay. In any way I can see, that's now sitting square. There's no movement. Adjust the front leg down. Now, I'm not saying that's 100% accurate, but it's pretty good. So let's tighten up. Lovely. You can see what I'm doing there. Locking it in place. Not too tight, because although I've got it square on this surface and this surface, how square is it when we're faceting a stone? And that's what we've got to do next. So that's a rough setup. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is dop a stone and put some facets in and see if they all line up. I'm going to clean this off and dop a stone. Dop a softish stone, because you don't want to work very hard at setting this up, and you don't want to set up something that's valuable, or use a stone that's valuable to do a setup. So bit of a rough, bit of soft rough will be fine, and we'll see how we go. So I've got some fluorite, heavily included, not a good example, very soft, and we'll use this to facet. Because it is soft, it won't take long to figure out how true our handpiece is. So I'm just going to dot this up now, and we'll make a start. So as a starting point, let's set this on 96, that's the index. And let's put our piece of faceting rough on there. And we're going to square it off. And the way I'm going to do that is take this down. Make sure that's on a firm plane, make sure that's on a firm plane, and that's on a firm plane, and tighten up. So all we're going to do now is literally just square it off. This does take some patience because we're not putting too much pressure on anything. We're just lowering it till we hear that it's stopped cutting. But we'll let it smooth off totally. And what I'll then do is do the four corners, so that's 96, we can go on to 24, and I can tell that's right on the edge there. 48 being the next one. Quite a bit of meat to cut through, and you get the idea. I'm just going to do the four edges to square it off. So I've got to this stage now where it's just touching. 72. Six, 24, and 48. And it looks pretty true. So let's do the table now. Set the protractor angle at 0, wind it up. I'm going to set this at 96, which is where I always put it when I do a table. I can hear this disc isn't quite straight because it's skipping. So we'll change this disc out in a minute. and I can tell from that we're not quite true. Okay. So now I'm going to the second part of the way I adjust things. It's getting there, but can you see there's a bit of a gap on those legs? So I'm going to wind these in till they're about flat to that surface there, but I'm going to wind them in equally. I've marked it. One, two. Same with these. One, two. One, two. Okay. Back to 90. Now I'm just going to square off again and double check. So I'm looking by eye now. How does it look? Does it look true with the sides straight up and down? Is the table square? Looks good. But now for the acid test. Let's put some angles in. So let's go at 40. So I'm moving it to a certain point until it stops faceting. So I picked my point. Not too much pressure. Bit of patience, a soft stone as it will take forever. And let's see if we line up. Highly unlikely on the first sweep, but okay, pressure's off. I'll put the others in and come back to you. So the first sweep has been done on the rough setter, and I'm using a marker pen so I can see more clearly how we're lining up. This is not a very good marker pen. And on an initial look, our rough setup isn't too far out. Goddamn impressive, isn't it? So let's mark up this top bit and go in once more once this is dry and just confirm that. Okay. Right, 24. So I'm going to put it down to the next level and facet that until I can hear it not faceting anymore. So you want to use the same part of the stone, same amount of pressure, not a lot, just enough to keep the feet in contact. Again, gentle pressure, same point on the disc until you sense and feel that it's stopped faceting. You're literally letting the machine do the work, because it's the machine, the handpiece, you're trying to get accurate. Sorry, this is boring for those people who like watching the stones being faceted, but for faceters it's very important to have this balanced to get an accurate cut. Okay, let's have a look. It is pretty good. It's the top square. Are the facets the same? There's a little tweak needed on this one here, because this facet is slightly higher than the start of that. I would be tempted to just screw this in a tad, literally that. And I'm happy that we're ready to go. So let's tighten those up. Now bearing in mind, in tightening them up, you might mess it up again, but you won't mess it up so much that you won't be able to just put a fine adjustment in. But that'll make a good stone. That's pretty accurate. Good to go. I do this at a different angle just to double checks, and I'll do that and come back to you. Okay, I set it to 45 degrees this time, and once again, deep joy. That confirms that everything is ready to go. And again at the end, we're getting a perfect little square, which will then give us a perfect culo. So that's handpiece is now ready to go. It's balanced. We stripped it, we cleaned it, we assembled it. It's nothing scary, nothing to worry about. Can be a bit frustrating the first few times you have a go at setting up a handpiece, but it's all fairly logical. Thank you for watching, folks, and that's how I do it. Good night, everybody.